Israel is concerned that the International Criminal Court intends to issue a warrant of arrest against the Prime Minister. Some of the allegations include the fact that Israel has intentionally denied humanitarian, or allegedly intentionally denied humanitarian food to Palestinians in Gaza and aid in general. Let's unpack the story further. We're joined this afternoon by Professor Gilbert Khadiagala. He is an international relations expert at Wits University. Prof, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. Anxiety in Israel and in the US over this reportedly pending warrant of arrest. Where's it coming from, do you think?
No, there are credible reports that the ICC is preparing to indict Mr. Netanyahu plus the head of the armed forces and the chief of defense staff in Israel. And these reports came from actually a statement that the Israeli lawyers presented to the government. So it always means that they are prompted, I think, maybe by somebody at the ICC that there is in fact an investigation going on, and this investigation may result into the indictments of the three figures implicated in the Gaza conflict. So the reports are credible enough, but the problem is we'll know exactly the credibility of these reports when Mr. Netanyahu and the others are indicted. But currently, we are literally just dealing with reports.
Right.
But they look credible.
Right. I mean, the ICC, for its part, has given no public indication that arrest warrants are indeed imminent. The ICC saying that it's visiting the region, or did so in December, and that it's investigating the situation there. It wants to act, it says, on emotion, not on emotion, but rather on solid evidence. Even if these warrants of arrest do materialize, Prof, it doesn't mean that the Prime Minister is going to end up in jail, does it? Israel and the US don't even recognize the court's jurisdiction.
No, the arrests are not going to make any short-term difference on what is happening in Israel or what is happening to the three individuals. The problem is that you can have the arrest, the warrant of arrest, but you still have to get the three or whoever is implicated to The Hague.
Right.
And currently, Israel is not a signatory, and then most of Israel's partners are signatories, but I don't think most of them are willing, in fact, to arrest Mr. Netanyahu. So it's a very dicey situation. It recalls what happened to Omar Bashir in Sudan in 2017 when he was indicted. Also, there was an arrest warrant for him, but he was actually never sent to The Hague. And now there are claims that he may actually go because he's been out of power. But it's very difficult for a sitting head of state to go to The Hague. And I think that's the saving grace for the Israeli leadership.
Professor Khadiagala, does it mean, though, that it would put the Israeli Prime Minister at risk of arrest in other countries, even though the US and Israel are not signatories?
No, there are about 147 countries that are signatories to the ICC statute. So it is possible that he could be arrested by any of those countries. But again, it's very difficult to speculate which countries may indict him or where he's going to travel. But let's wait for the arrest warrants to come up first before I think we go into those speculations. But my suspicion is that even if the warrants are issued, it's unlikely that the leaders of Israel would be arrested and sent to The Hague.
But maybe it's not about them being arrested or even being sent to The Hague, Prof. Maybe it's just about an incredibly strong statement and what this would mean in the eyes of the world. It would be essentially embarrassing, wouldn't it, for Benjamin Netanyahu to be on the same plane alongside the likes of Russian President Vladimir Putin, for example?
Precisely. I think the arrest warrants would really be an embarrassing point for Mr. Netanyahu, because he's already argued that 80 years after the genocide in Germany, the very international institutions that were created to prevent genocide are now being used, in fact, against Israel. So you can already see the reaction of the Israeli government that, in fact, this would be a bad moment for him to be arrested, because it puts him in the same box as the other people who've committed war crimes. And the Israelis don't want to be associated with war crimes, even though you remember the South African case, the ICJ similarly making the same kinds of statements that Israel has committed crimes that it needs to pay for, and the leadership has to be responsible.
Well, I suppose the question is, what qualifies as war crimes, Professor Khadiagala, when 34,000 people in Palestine have been killed since October 7th?
For the ICC, it will be up to the prosecutor to bring the evidence of war crimes. And he has to present that evidence to 3 judges before they can actually issue the arrest warrant. So it's a very delicate moment, but they will have to rely primarily on the evidence that has been gathered on the ground before the indictment, before the arrest warrants actually are made.
Yeah.
So, but you are right about the 34,000 that have been killed during the war in Gaza. It's a question of issues around moral equivalence. How do we measure the number of children, for instance, killed in Gaza, and the really humanitarian crisis that we see in Gaza? How do we quantify it, and how do we actually look at it from the perspective of crimes that are seen by many people as having been committed in that region?
How do you quantify the loss, not only the loss of life, but the loss of generations, families, entire families, children left without parents or caregivers, left alone in the world? How does one quantify that?
It is difficult to quantify, but I think the bigger point I'm making is that when it comes to the determination of crimes, it is up to the prosecutors really to assess all the sides of the story, particularly since Israel is still arguing that, in fact,
it's self-defense.
So the Hamas is still the culprit here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Quantification is very difficult, but for the ICC case, if it does come to arrest warrants, then all that evidence will have to be put up there so that everybody can actually make their own judgment with
certainly.
respect to issues of crimes against humanity, if there will be arrest warrants.
Professor Gilbert Khadiagala, great pleasure talking to you as always, sir. Thanks for coming on to Daytime Update. Prof. Khadiagala is an international relations expert at Wits University.